So as the years go by, Microsoft is starting to make it harder and harder to pass the exams purely by memorization. They're moving away from the multiple choice questions that a lot of vendors use, and they're starting to actually present you with a live portal environment or a live sandboxed environment where you can actually do things within Azure. And so getting hands-on experience with Azure is an essential study technique in order to prepare for this exam. So you have a number of ways to get access to Azure as you're studying for this. Now you might have an account through work, so you have an account that has some free credits on it and you can practice and play around with it. If you don't, you can sign up for an Azure free account. For the free account, you get 12 months of free services, plus you get a credit within the first 30 days, so you can create some more advanced services that actually cost some money. You can Google around for this Azure free account. The other way that you can do it is by working using the hands-on labs that are available. Now, I'm looking to get hands-on labs created for myself and for my students, but until then, I would direct you to Microsoft's official hands-on labs. It's microsoft.com/hands-on-labs. You can see that they've got this self-paced labs option. And when we go into it, there's actually now 198 self-paced labs. It wasn't too long ago where there was only 20 or 30 labs. So Microsoft are adding more and more lab options into this section. So if you look at something that you want to be learning about, let's say ARM templates, there are 6 self-paced labs having to do with that. And you can see that some of them have lengths like 60 minutes or 120 minutes. That gives you 2 hours of access to the Azure portal while you're doing your work. I'm going to demonstrate this in a little bit, but let's talk about some of the other options for hands-on practice with Azure. Now, sometimes you might have access to an Azure account, or your own account, a free account, a corporate account, but you don't know how you should be practicing. So there's a site called Azure Citadel. It's azurecitadel.github.io. And if you go into the labs section, they have a number of labs that give you ideas of things that you can do within Azure. Now, this isn't the same as Microsoft's hands-on labs. Let's go into the functions lab. As you can see, the functions lab just takes you to a GitHub account. And when you go into the GitHub account, it's really just a list of steps that you can take to go and create a function. So he's basically through a series of screenshots showing you how he's going about creating a function. Now I can already see that this function interface has changed since this was created. But basically somebody's taken the time to give you a project and to show you how to enable an Azure function, etc. And there are a lot of other advanced options within the Citadel site. So if we go back to the Citadel's homepage, we can see IoT hubs and terraforming, Azure bots, streaming analytics. So these are not your simple lab options. There's some more advanced ones within Azure Citadel. Now, Microsoft did have lab exercises for their 70-533 course, and there might be some really interesting stuff in here. So going to the 2533, which is the name of the course that Microsoft used to have, and finding on GitHub the official lab exercises for that official course could provide you with some really interesting things in terms of managing virtual machines or deploying virtual machines. Although, like I said, it's buyer beware because these things can change. At Microsoft Ignite last year, Microsoft introduced this learning site, which is microsoft.com/learn. And when you go through, start browsing on learning, I chose the administrator option, and there are 26 options for Azure administrators to go and learn about various things. Now, there are actually, these are what's called micro-learning, so some of these lessons are 30 minutes and 50 minutes. But if you come along, basically within here, you can say create a Linux virtual machine, and we can see here that you sign in to activate a sandbox, and you're going to get an Azure Cloud Shell in the browser that you can go and start creating a virtual machine using, either Bash or PowerShell. Right? So if we go through here, it's going to tell you exactly what we need to do in order to create an Azure virtual machine using a Cloud Shell. So that's another place to get hands-on experience through the Microsoft Learn site. So those are a lot of the free options in terms of hands-on experience or ideas for labs that you can then go and do projects on your own. Hands-on experience, once again, is a very important aspect of learning Azure, not only for yourself and not only for your future job prospects, but to pass the test.